Welcome to the Everyday Conversion Podcast, the only 5-day-a-week podcast helping faithful members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints have and foster daily gospel discussions with their families based on the Come Follow Me curriculum. I'm your host, Mark Sieverkrop, and it's important for me to tell you up front that the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts of this podcast alone and do not represent the official doctrine and viewpoint of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. With that in mind, let's jump right in with today's episode. It's normal for us as mortals to take for granted the things that we see, hear, and experience. And in sharing his parables, Christ addressed this fact when he said this in Matthew chapter 13, verses 12 through 15. Quote, "For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, yet lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them." But then the Savior says this to his disciples in verses 16 and 17. "But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them." When I read that, I immediately think of our day. The Savior could have easily been saying this to us regarding our time. This idea that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have seen and heard them not. Do we fully appreciate the things that we are currently seeing, hearing, and experiencing in the fullness of times, in this dispensation? Or do we take for granted the marvelous work and wonder that is the restored gospel of Jesus Christ? I love these words from the prophet Joseph Smith in verses 18 through 22 of Doctrine and Covenants 128. This is a really, really long section, but it's so powerful. I'm going to try to read. I might try to skip around, but this is powerful. I don't want to miss any of this. The Savior says, "It is necessary in the ushering in of the dispensation of the fullness of times, which dispensation is now beginning to usher in, that a whole and complete and perfect union and welding together of dispensations and keys and powers and glories should take place, and be revealed from the day of Adam even to the present time. And not only this, but those things which never have been revealed from the foundation of the world, but have been kept hid from the wise and prudent, shall be revealed unto babes and sucklings in this, the dispensation of the fullness of times." Then he really, really jumps into it, and I love the excitement here. He says in verse 19, "Now what do we hear in the gospel which we have received? A voice of gladness, a voice of mercy from heaven, a voice of truth out of the earth, glad tidings from the dead, a voice of gladness for the living and the dead, glad tidings of great joy. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of those that bring glad tidings of good things, and that say unto Zion, Behold, thy God reigneth." And again, what do we hear? Glad tidings from Cumorah, Moroni, an angel from heaven, declaring the fulfillment of the prophets, the book to be revealed. A voice of the Lord in the wilderness of Fayette, Seneca County, declaring the three witnesses to bear record of the book. The voice of Michael on the banks of the Susquehanna, detecting the devil when he appeared as an angel of light. The voice of Peter, James, and John in the wilderness between Harmony, Susquehanna County, and Colesville, Broome County, on the Susquehanna River, declaring themselves as possessing possessing the keys of the kingdom and of the dispensation of the fullness of times. Can you feel the excitement in these in these verses? It's just I get excited reading it because you can read the excitement that the Savior or that Joseph Smith has as he's writing these words. He goes on, he talks about the voice of God in the chamber of Father Whitmer. He talks about the voice of Michael the archangel, the voice of Gabriel and Raphael and diverse angels from Michael and Adam down to the present time in declaring their dispensation, their rights, their keys, their honors, their majesty and glory and the power of their priesthood, giving line upon line, precept upon precept. Then he says in verse 22, "Brethren, shall we not go on in so great a cause? Go forward and not backwards. Courage, brethren, and on to victory. Let your hearts rejoice and be exceedingly glad. Let the earth break forth in the singing. Let the dead speak forth anthems of eternal praise to the King Emmanuel, who hath ordained before the world was that which would enable us to redeem them out of their prison. For the prisoners shall go free. Let the mountains shout forth with joy, and all ye valleys cry aloud, and all ye seas and dry lands tell the wonders of your eternal King." And he just goes on, and he goes on, and he goes on. And my question for you today is, what are you most grateful for in the restored gospel of Jesus Christ? What things have prophets and wise men desired to see that they have not seen that you get to see? I would encourage you to take time to think about that today. Write down the blessings that you have received because of the restoration. Think about the things that you have in your life because of the restoration of the gospel. And then take some time to share that list with a friend or with a family member. Share with them the things that you're grateful for, the things that you have seen that prophets and wise men throughout the ages have not been able to see. Again, the question today, the first one is, do we fully appreciate the things that we're currently seeing, hearing, and experiencing in this dispensation? And the second one is, what are you most grateful for in the restored gospel of Jesus Christ? Thank you for listening to the Everyday Conversion Podcast. For transcripts and other bonus materials, as well as past episodes, be sure to visit everydayconversion.com. And if you haven't yet, be sure to leave us a rating and review on iTunes or your favorite podcast listening platform. This episode was a production of the Everyday Conversion Podcast, and while we are faithful members of the church, the views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts of this podcast alone and do not represent the official doctrine and viewpoint of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. For official doctrine and viewpoints of the church, please visit lds.org